Ready? Start. It has been observed that a lot of time and resources are consumed in filing of appeals which involve political issues. Taking forward our policy of sound litigation management, I propose to provide that if the question of law in the case of SSC is identical to a question of law which is pending in appeal before the jurisdictional High Court or the Supreme Court, in any case, the filing of further appeal in the case of this SSC by the department shall be deferred till such question of law is decided by the jurisdictional High Court or the Supreme Court. This will greatly help in reducing the litigation between taxpayers and the department. Taking forward our efforts to further promote the IFSC, I hereby propose to provide that income of a non-resident from offshore derivative instruments over-the-counter derivatives issued by an offshore banking unit, income from royalty and interest on account of lease of ship, and income received from portfolio management services in IFSC shall be exempt from tax subject to specified conditions. In the globalized business world, there are several works contracts whose terms and conditions mandatorily require formation of a consortium. The members in the consortium are generally companies. In such cases, the income of these AOPs has to suffer a graded surcharge up to 37%, which is a lot more than the surcharge on the individual companies. Accordingly, I propose to cap the surcharge of these AOPs at 15%. For the long-term capital gains on listed shares, units, etc. are liable to maximum surcharge of 15%, while the other long-term capital gains is subjected to a graded surcharge which goes up to 37%. I propose to cap the surcharge on long-term capital gains arising on transfer of any type of assets at 15%. This step will give a boost to the startup community, and along with my proposal on extending tax benefits to manufacturing companies and startups reaffirms our commitment to Atmanirbhar Bharat. The income tax is not an allowable expenditure for computation of business income. This includes tax as well as surcharges. The health and education cess is imposed as an additional surcharge on the taxpayer for funding specific government welfare programs. However, some courts have allowed. Presently, there is ambiguity regarding set-off of broad forward loss against undisclosed income deducted in such operations. It has been observed that in many cases where undisclosed income or suppression of sales, etc. is deducted, payment of tax is avoided by setting off of losses. In order to bring certainty and to increase deterrence among tax evaders, I propose to provide that no set-off of any loss can be allowed against undisclosed income detected during such consistent survey operations. It has been noticed that as a business promotion strategy, there is a tendency on businesses to pass on benefits to their agents. Such benefits are taxable in the hands of the agents. In order to track such transactions, I propose to provide for tax deduction by the person giving benefits if the aggregate value of such benefits exceeds rupees 20,000 during the financial year. GST has been a landmark reform of independent India, showcasing the spirit of cooperative federalism. While aspirations were high, there were huge challenges too. These challenges were overcome deftly and painstakingly under the guidance and oversight of the GST Council. We can now take pride in a fully IT-driven and progressive GST regime the cherished dream of India as one market, one tax. There are still some challenges remaining and we aspire to meet them in the coming year. The right balance between facilitation and enforcement is ensured significantly better compliance. GST revenues are down despite the pandemic. Taxpayers deserve applause for this growth. Not only did they adapt to the changes, but enthusiastically contributed to the cause by paying tax. In part A of my speech, I have referred to the proposed reforms in SEZs. Alongside we will also evaluate the reforms in customs administration of SEZs and should henceforward be fully IT driven and function on the customs national portal with a focus on higher facilitation and with risk-based checks. This will ease doing business by SEZ units considerably. This reform shall be implemented by 30th September 2022. Customs administration has reinvented itself over the years through liberalized procedures and infusion of technology. Faceless customs has been fully established. During COVID-19 pandemic, customs formations have done exceptional frontline work against odds, displaying agility and purpose. Customs reforms have played a very vital role in domestic law and creation, providing them playing field to MSMEs, easing the raw material supply side constraints, enhancing ease of doing business and being enabled to other policy initiatives in the current year. It has been observed that a lot of time and resources are consumed in filing of appeals which involve identical issues. Taking forward our policy of sound litigation management, I propose to provide that if a question of law in the case of SSC is identical to a question of law which is pending in appeal before the jurisdictional High Court or the Supreme Court, in any case, the filing of further appeal in the case of this SSC by the department shall be deferred till such question of law is decided by the jurisdictional High Court of the Supreme Court. This will greatly help in reducing the litigation between taxpayers and the department. Taking forward our efforts to further promote the IFSC, I hereby propose to provide that income of a non-resident from offshore derivative instruments or over-the-counter derivatives issued by an offshore banking unit, income from royalty and interest on account of lease of ship and income received from portfolio management services in IFSC shall be exempt from tax subject to specified conditions. In the globalized business world, there are several bulk contracts whose terms and conditions mandatorily require formation of a consortium. The members in the consortium are generally companies. In such cases, the income of these AOBs has to suffer a graded surcharge up to 37%, which is a lot more than the surcharge on the individual companies. Stop.